as always with the dashboard, there's plenty to talk about and not enough time. But what I did highlight that jumped out at me as well is under the first category of person crimes, and hopefully you got a copy as we wait till it displays up in front of the screen. With that said, focusing on assaults, we saw that from September of last year we had 25, where we have 42 this last month. So, with a 34% increase, we wanted to peel that back a little bit. And what the numbers show is about 40% are domestic violence. So how appropriate is that as it relates to Domestic Violence Awareness Month? The others were either stranger on strangers, some of our unhoused communities. We had a couple bias crime assaults. We had a couple juveniles and gang-related incidents. So long and short of it is to say there was not one particular location, individuals causing problem. It's just kind of a snapshot of what we're seeing out in the community as our ability to get along with one another. Robberies are still the same, even though those are small numbers, from 3 to 9. It's again regarding mostly shoplifts that go wrong, where when the loss prevention personnel tries to take somebody in custody and then they fight back or display a weapon, things of that nature. And there were a couple of juveniles displaying weapons. So again, similar patterns that we're seeing. We do hold a majority of them accountable. In other words, we are able to effectively make arrests when we can. So there's a high percentage of at least trying to get people held accountable for their actions. The other one, a little more positive on note, if we can go to the next slide, please. As I think all of you are aware now, on Saturday, and this really was coming from the report of catalytic converter thefts, and I think all of you made it very clear on what the council or how can you support the police department, but in particular our community on any way that we can help protect them from these catalytic converter thefts. And so we took that to heart. We did some research, and we came up with our Spray 'em and Save 'em event, which was on Saturday, just for 4 hours at Tigard SUV and Auto Repair on Shoals Ferry. They were kind enough to give us 2 bays, and we had within less than 24 hours, 48 cars signed up, and then we had to turn people away for this event. But it was very successful, and the community that took advantage of this were so appreciative. And we actually were able to, when we lifted cars up, to show 2 people that they had something better than what we could ever provide them, and that was their catalytic converters buried under a lot of protection. And so we were able to show them that they have the best probably prevention they could have. But we sprayed them with some special paint, we etched them and recorded it, and again, I think it just felt good to be able to do something proactive. Next slide, please. And those are both, as you guys recognize, our 2 motor officers who were doing the etching. And then we had staff, the owner of Tigard SUV. They ran the lifts and helped us in that regards. And next slide, just to give you the numbers, where are we at? So I've circled August where we had 11. If you recall, that's when we were part of Beaverton Police Department's extensive investigation that led to the location of about 40 suspected stolen catalytic converters. And so we want to see what was the impact since then. And you can see, because unfortunately, due to staffing constraints in the jails, they were out the door, almost back out the door that day or shortly thereafter. And so we can see that there was a bit of an impact, but we're still trending up, and so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll still try and do as much preventative. So we will do another event. We've got to tweak some things, get some better equipment, because the etching it wasn't working all that great. So we've got to get some stronger engravers, but it was, again, I think well received and something positive that we'll want to continue in the future. And I've already had other agencies reach out to us to learn a little bit more about that program. So that's it in a nutshell. I could talk a whole lot more. We did have coffee with a cop this week and chat with the chief. So again, just a few more indications that we're back connecting with the public. And that level of engagement as you see when you get all of your correspondence. So happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Well, Chief, thank you for being responsive to the council and the community's concerns around catalytic converter thefts. And it's disappointing to hear people are back on the street, especially with how it sounded like that was a major ring that was involving millions of dollars. So that's concerning, but I recognize that that's the current reality we're in. Anybody else on the council have questions or comments? Councilor Newton?
I just wanted to make a comment about the award that the city got from the League of Oregon Cities last week, the Good Governance Award for our Public Safety Advisory Board, and just thank you publicly for the role that you played in that, you and Commander McDonald in particular. So thank you very much. It was a great experience, and I know you're moving forward with some ideas for you and your staff to keep connected to the community. So thanks for your work on that.
Well, I appreciate the recognition, and like I said, you know, the positive affirmation out of all of that was every step of the way. Your guys' vision, how did we carry it out, how do we involve, you know, from even how we selected our members to then how we engaged. And I think that's the kudo to the everybody who had a role every single week, and everybody came with their best selves forward and willing to listen. So while I thank you for the acknowledgement, it really is an easy thing to do when everybody has the best interest of our community and leading with nothing but good intentions, as opposed to pointing fingers or labeling something that maybe is a more national narrative than a local one. So I thank all of you as well, and it was great to see that recognition.
Well, Chief, you weren't there to hear my acceptance speech on behalf of the city, but I will tell you that I recognize specifically you, your entire leadership team, and every single officer and staff member of the police department, because I think it took everybody being open and willing to engage to make it as successful as it was. So I think my speech was videotaped, and I would actually love for it to be played for the department, but I understand if that can't happen. But just as an FYI,
I think I'm sure it's got to be in this day and age in technology, so we'll seek it out. And again, I'll thank you in advance. Appreciate it all.
Any other comments? Councilor Goodhouse.
One question with the rise in assaults. I know that I think there was a talk during the pandemic that maybe a lot of domestic violence may not be reported or so forth just because of not people being in public or so forth. Do you think that part of those numbers being increased is now that people are getting back to normal, that now people feel more they can come out and report the crimes, or it's being reported, or is there any tie into that?
Well, I'll go beyond what I think to what I've been told when I talked to the director of the Family Justice Center, because, you know, one of the things, as I had a conversation today, is, you know, Tigard's numbers are about 150 right now that go there, and we had about 300 last year. Her perception of this is not that we have a bigger problem. Again, she was complimentary and said, I think the awareness that we create and the fact that she knows for a fact she has seen Tigard officers actually transport some of our victims to the Justice Center to get that help. So I'd like to think the system is built up that provides that support and gets people connected. And so I do think awareness, and you're right, I mean, when they're sequestered in their homes, and that's another control for our victims. And now that we're coming out in more public, I'm sure there is a percentage. Anecdotally, I can't say, but and the same with children going back to school and possibly disclosing things that are happening at their home. So I think that the fact that we're coming out and nobody's kind of sequestered helps every little step of the way to get resources connected.
Youth Councilor Nog.
Thank you so much for your comments. I believe last year the Tigard Police Department created a video towards teens about dating violence. Is that happening again this year? And if so, like, if you need any help, I would love to find volunteers for that as well.
Offer of assistance.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll revisit it, because I'm sure, like everything else, once we create it, we just want to play it again at this time. But if there's an opportunity, especially when you can rope in new players, because it helps create awareness, definitely looking at that. So I thank you for that. And I think we're also doing, Detective Rennell is doing another You Go Girl defensive tactics kind of awareness, and so we look forward to that as well.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I think it was last night. I know it was this week, but I'll check on that. And I had a conversation with her, and she told me it was coming up, so I believe it was this week. Yeah. But I told her to send me some pictures, so I didn't see those yet. So maybe it may come. If it hasn't happened, I will make sure that I communicate that.
I would, if it hasn't happened, is it okay if I post it on the school video that we send out to have anybody who wants to go?
Be That Girl self-defense class on the 9th. Yes. But more communication, more dialogue, and we'll make that happen. Thank you so much. Thank you again.